when it comes to like internal dialogue, right? I think we kind of talked about this a little bit off
Oh yeah,
camera.
yeah.
You know, I think you when the way you speak to yourself, right, in the mind, how does that relate to language, and how does that language that you talk to yourself about, like,
How can it change you in a way?
yes, how can it change you as a person?
Yeah. Man, I would say that I would first have to disagree that it is internal dialogue. I would have to say that it's internal monologue.
Okay.
And I would say that because in order for something to be a dialogue, it has to be spoken between two people, or rather, two different just perspectives. Whenever you're speaking to yourself, or really in like, you're just saying like you're like, oh, should I go to the store? Yes, I should go to the store. It's just a one-way conversation. I'm unless you're able to entertain a lot of perspectives, or able to think objectively of like what you want. But I would argue that largely, like, when we want something, we just want it, right? It's not like we're just gonna go get
Yeah.
it. So yeah, so internal monologue, I would say, is very yeah, it's very interesting, because I would say even some people don't have internal monologue. This is something I found out. I think maybe
Whoa.
yeah, it's kind of a radical claim, but based on this research that I read, I would say around, I think it's the under, so like 40% of people don't have internal monologue.
I would disagree with that
Oh, really?
100%.
Okay, interesting. I'd like to hear. I,
Like, so solely disagree with every inch of my body,
okay,
because there's no way another you cannot have internal monologue,
okay,
because first of all, you're not just a physical being.
sure.
That's like, to just put the claim out there. You're more than just this body. I'm more than just my body. So I do have another self of me, which is spiritual.
Absolutely.
So I have to communicate with that self, regardless of who I am. So I think that's BS.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I don't know who did that study, but
Absolutely.
it's not, I don't think it's possible,
Okay.
in my
Yeah.
opinion.
For one, one thing I could think of is, I have a friend who, actually, I asked him, I said, do you have a running monologue in your head? And he said, no, not really. And I said, really, you don't like think to yourself, or you don't like, he said, oh, I do think to myself. And so I should say we should further refine this kind of idea of what internal monologue is. I would say that, because he says that he speaks to himself out loud.
I Yes,
And so that's what I think that, and so I think that people do it in other ways.
I think even if you do speak it out loud, it does come from the mind, right? And it
Absolutely.
comes from inside. And before it comes out of the mind, it's already like, that conversation has low-key already happened, because, sometimes I think, like, this has been also, I think, studied somewhere, I can't remember, but this was a long time ago when I read this. Like, before I have a bite of ice cream,
Yeah.
I've already thought about eating the ice cream. Like,
Would you
like,
say it's language?
it is part of language, though, because it's like you're having that like conversation already in your head. I think it's a conversation between yourself, even if it's not between two people. You're already having that within yourself, because, like I said, I live more on the spiritual realm side,
Absolutely.
which is means, like, I think, like, that's where my intuition comes in, right? So
Uh-huh.
there's more than me
Yeah.
than just this physical self. So it's like,
Absolutely.
it's important. And the best decisions, I guess, that I've made have been made by me listening to that intuition, or that inner voice, or that thought that comes in.